If you could please let me know when we are live, I would appreciate it. I want to make sure that we are welcoming YouTube in as effectively as possible. Oh, I think we're live. Hi, YouTube. Good morning. Welcome, YouTube. We appreciate you joining us and participating in the Lurie Daniel Favors Show experience, where we are going to share some of the content and the stories that we are talking about today with all of you. And today we're going to talk about the many ways that Republicans hate white Americans. I know this feels weird to say that Republicans hate white people. It feels a little hyperbolic. It's not. Trust me, you're going to see this in just a minute. And we should be clear that this doesn't mean that they like anybody else. It means that they just, because we know they hate white people and white Americans, we also know what they are going to think about us. And so that's why I'm framing it that way. Because if you can see what they're doing here, you'll be able to see how this shows up in other spaces. Now, some of these stories I talk way more about in today's podcast episode. Just a programming note, our podcast episodes for the Lurie Breaks It Down podcast, they usually air at 6 a.m. with our moment of gratitude and our moment of inspiration, and 2 p.m. Today, you're going to get it later in the afternoon, 2 p.m., because we have a lot of things happening with the team. So today's afternoon's podcast will come out later than 2 p.m., but it is going to be fire, and it's going to talk a lot about these topics in some different ways. So I want to start by talking about the many, many ways that I have come to a conclusion that it must be that Republicans hate white Americans. And not just white Americans, they really hate poor white Americans. They despise poor white Americans in some really key ways. And we can kind of know that they hate poor white Americans because of the things that they do, right? You shall know them by the fruits that they bear. Every one of our religious practices has some sort of sentiment that says like you are going to know a tree by the fruit that it bears. If you see apples falling from this tree, that's an apple tree. If you see oranges falling from this tree, that's an orange tree. If you see white nationalist demons falling from this tree, that's a white nationalist demon tree. You see how this works? Okay, here's how we know Republicans hate poor white people, because everything they do is designed to really hurt poor white people. Now, here's the gag about it. They're not going to say that they're doing this to hurt poor white people. They're going to tell poor white people that they're doing this to hurt the blacks or to hurt the Latinos or to hurt the migrants or to hurt somebody else. But really, those of us who are intelligent and who can read and who have reading comprehension, we know that when they tell poor white people that they're doing something to hurt the blacks, they're really going to use that thing that they're doing to hurt the blacks to destroy poor white people. But poor white people who are very uneducated about any of these topics aren't going to know it. So the poor white people are going to support the rich white people doing this thing that's going to hurt the black people, not realizing that by hurting the black people, they're actually hurting themselves. And it's wash, rinse, and repeat. This is not new. This is something that rich white people have been doing with poor white people. It's a dance. Like I said yesterday, it's a dance that only they know the rhythm to. It's a rhythmless nation, and they are rhythmiclessly dancing this dance all across the universe. And so that's where we are today. But here are just some of the few examples. And again, I go into more of these in the podcast episode, just a few examples of the ways in which we can tell we are confident that Republicans cannot stand white Americans, because Republicans hate hospitals. They actually don't like healthcare. This should not surprise anybody, because we've talked extensively about the fact that Republicans don't want us to have healthcare. They only want you to have healthcare that they can privatize and make money from. But we also know that Republicans hate healthcare. And we know that Republicans hate healthcare because of what is happening for any of you right now who have medical insurance. If you have medical insurance, like I do, you are about to, if you have not already, you're about to start getting letters from your insurance company. And these letters from the insurance company are basically there to tell you that your insurance premiums are going to go up. So I have insurance. The insurance premiums for my family are going to go up. All of you who have insurance, who go to work, and because of your job, you have insurance, your healthcare premiums are about to go up. Now, if you think I'm lying, or being hyperbolic, just listen to the words of one Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who had this to say when she was talking to the public about what is happening right now. On YouTube, I'm sharing my screen, so you all should be able to see this. I want you all to listen to what she says that Republicans are doing that is now a sign that they can't stand poor white people, and a sign of what's to come for all of us. Take a listen. Yes.
A lot of Michiganders, probably most Michiganders, are going to be getting notice this fall of a significant rate increase in your private insurance. What I'd encourage you to do is get that letter that you're going to get, black out your address and your name, and post that online. I want people to understand that the rate increase that you're getting is because of what the president has decided to do on health care in this country, and we shouldn't take that lying down.
And we're not going to take it lying down, Alyssa. We're going to actually talk about it. And the reason we got to talk about it is because it's going to impact all of us. But it's really a sign that Republicans hate poor white people. And here's how we know. Because in addition to the fact that those of us who actually pay into our healthcare systems are going to get these price increases, we also have a situation where hospitals in white communities, poor rural white communities that are represented by wealthy white people, are now facing hospital closure. So I thought it was bad enough when we started seeing notifications that we're going to be getting price increases, but poor white people in poor white communities where they are represented by wealthy white people are now seeing their hospitals close. The Augusta Medical Group just announced, and this is one of the latest hospital consolidations that we're seeing across the country in white rural communities, often because a lot of our black communities ain't even got hospitals built in them, child. But you poor whites, don't you worry, you're not going to have a hospital for you either. The Augusta Medical Group announced a consolidation of locations to improve consistent care. Now, I'm going to read to you directly from their press release so you can see just how clearly I can see that Republicans actually hate poor white people. And here you go. Here's the press release. Augusta Medical Group has announced the consolidation of 3 practice locations as part of its ongoing commitment to delivering consistent high-quality care while adapting to the evolving needs of the community. After thorough consideration, Augusta Medical Group has decided to consolidate Wayers Cave Urgent Care, Buena Vista Primary Care, and Churchville Primary Care. Patients from these locations will be transitioned to nearby practices, ensuring improved access to regular care. These decisions are never easy, but they demonstrate Augusta Health's commitment to deploying innovative access strategies for addressing demand at the neighborhood level. And here's the part you got to pay attention to. This consolidation is also part of Augusta Health's ongoing response to the One Big Beautiful Bill and the resulting realities for healthcare delivery. Augusta continues to evaluate services and locations to ensure long-term sustainability. Augusta Health said, Virginia, listen, I know it's a lot of people in Virginia who tried to vote for the Democrats, but those of you who voted for the Republicans, you should just know that you ain't going to have no more health care in these communities. Now, you'll still technically have health care. You're just going to have to travel a long way to get it. Now, don't worry, you're not going to have to travel too long, and I'm sure you've got cars because you don't have public transportation because Republicans usually vote against public transportation, but you should just know that every single one of the Democrats voted against that bill. But here are the people, the white representatives representing white poor communities. Now, these people got money whose names I'm about to mention. They are representing poor white communities, and they voted to shutter your hospitals, poor white people. Listen, this isn't we ain't trying to call you out. We just letting you know y'all been the biggest marks of the nation since time immemorial. And you should just know that white Representative Klein, white Representative Griffith, white Representative Kiggins, white Representative McGuire, and white Representative Whitman all voted to close white hospitals in predominantly white communities because they don't like poor people. They don't like poor white people in particular because you are a reminder to them of everything that they're trying to avoid. Republicans also don't like farmers. Republicans don't like farmers. They don't like farmland. Apparently, they don't even like things grown on farms. And so farmers right now are really struggling. And we have talked about this a lot. So I'm not even going to play a whole bunch of clips of the farmers struggling because we done seen them in the fields talking about how, look at all my tomatoes. All my tomatoes are just dying in the fields because the migrants ain't coming to work no more, because Republicans also hate migrants and they hate farm workers. And they're not powerful enough to actually work on the farms because they don't have the intellectual or physical capacity according to other white farmers. But now we know that the farmers have said that it costs so much money to pay people, and white people who are their neighbors are not physically fit enough to come out and do this work. And so Republican farmers are talking about the fact that they are about to go bankrupt. Now, earlier this week and even last week, we played a lot of those video clips. So now I'm going to share with you some information that is now really spreading across the country. And what we have is a situation where the farmers are pissed off. The white farmers are very angry. They are very upset. They are outraged. And according to AgWeb, which is a farm journal, they are pissed to high heavens. Outraged farmers blame ag monopolies as catastrophic collapse looms. The inescapable crop math of sustained crippling commodity prices and high input costs has many growers screaming for immediate relief. However, bailouts are band-aids over bullet holes and contend the farmers who are desperate for fundamental change. So farmers right now are begging for bailouts. They're begging for bailouts because not only are migrant workers no longer showing up to pull them them crops up out the ground. But we also have a situation where the primary purchasers for American farm products are no longer able to make those purchases. What are we talking about? Because we told you that Republicans hate farmers. They hate poor people. They also hate international aid. Organizations like USAID is one such international aid organization. And you may remember that one of the first things that Doge did when they came in and blew up the whole government was they blew up USAID. Now, USAID is an international organization, again, that not only provides foods and medicinals for millions upon millions upon millions of hungry people who are in very economically strapped situations all across the country. USAID also does the soft power of helping to, like, make sure that things don't get too out of control. And so some people, like Elongated Muskrat, blame Doge for helping to, around a way engineer or co-engineer the destruction of apartheid in South Africa. They didn't like USAID. And so they got rid of USAID. Remember, that was one of the biggest agencies that they went into first. They cut off hundreds of $millions of aid, like almost overnight. What they forgot was how to message this properly, because again, Republicans hate farmers, so they didn't do the future analysis that talked about the fact that USAID was also one of the largest purchasers of American farm products. American crops were typically being purchased in significant sums by this very agency and then spread across the world. So now that USAID is gone, because Republicans hate international help and they don't like helping people who are not white and Republican and wealthy, they forgot that that was going to redound back to them, but they don't really care because they don't like farmers in the first place. And so now we have situations where farmers are realizing that the primary purchasers for their crops are no longer there. And even if you weren't selling to USAID and you were instead selling to, China, like maybe you were selling soybeans to China because there aren't a whole lot of countries that purchase as many soybeans as China does. And so China was buying up all of these soybeans. You had a lot of American farmers who their primary crops were soybeans because China was a guaranteed purchaser. Well, those were them days, and those days are gone, long gone before. I want you all to take a listen to what's happening right now, because we're in a situation where farmers are begging for bailouts. They are begging for support. We saw clips of this happening. And now the righteous righteous have decided to enter the chat. You may be wondering, who are the righteous righteous? The righteous righteous is a phrase that was put together by this phenomenal, amazing scholar who I'm absolutely love. And I know her personally. She is the amazing Dr. Feminista Jones. And she put together this concept called the righteous righteous. It's a phrase that she coined. And the righteous righteous speaks to the fact that there are a lot of white people. There are white people, I don't know how many, but there are white people out there who basically recognize that white supremacy is wrong and that the history of America is a racist one, and that they got to speak truth to power, even if it means committing some version of race suicide. And the righteous righteous are like, wait just a minute, fellow whites. You white farmers who voted for this, you voted for harm and for bigotry, and you're a terrible human being, and now you want a bailout, even though they just destroyed our healthcare system and they got rid of the diversity, equity, and inclusion. You poor whites, you can't have a bailout, and we righteous righteous are going to fight against it. And if you think I'm exaggerating, honey, just take a listen to one of these righteous righteous right now. I'm going to share my screen so y'all can hear what this woman had to say. Amina, let's play the clip of this righteous righteous woman who's got something to say to the farmers. Take a listen.
To all my farmer neighbors, my name is Susie, and
Susie.
I live in rural Missouri.
Okay.
You were warned over and over and over. We told you there was no drag queen story hour.
We did tell you that.
There were no furries in our school using litter boxes.
Y'all didn't believe it.
But you guys refused to call the superintendent of the schools like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I called Rolla Public Schools and asked Dr. Dare if there was any truth to that.
And what did he say, Susan?
He laughed.
Ooh, girl.
And said maybe I was watching too much TV.
Because you might have been, Susan. You might have.
We told you that China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans.
They sure did.
You laughed in our face.
You sure did. Yes, you did.
I'm not going to say I told you so.
I'm going to say it, though. I told him
But
so,
I
Susan.
do not want to bail you out for the next 20 years.
Me
and
either,
I will
girl.
fight against it.
Me too. Come on, righteous righteous.
China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans because of Donald J. Trump. Mm-hmm. They don't want our soybeans. They don't want our beef.
Nope.
They don't want our wheat. They don't want anything we grow.
And why
As
should
far
they?
as we're concerned, China can stick it up our ass.
And they are.
And can
No
you blame them?
Vaseline.
Can you really blame them?
I don't blame them not a lick. China said, oh, okay. You about that life? Let me tell you what this life finna look like. We gonna go over to Brazil. We gonna sign this 20-year contract. We gonna take all these Brazilian soybeans. And in fact, we gonna do the same thing. Japan doing the same thing with beef. American beef prices is gonna be ridiculous. Try to buy a steak. Ain't gonna be no grilling. Not cheaply. Not cheaply at all. So the farmers are begging for bailouts, and now there's this contentious situation happening between the white farmers and who are upset because they're realizing that their demands for a bailout are not being received in the same way that they had before. Because remember, this happened during the first Trump administration, and so now white farmers are like, well, now wait a minute, what are you trying to say? You white people are saying that we shouldn't have a farm. You trying to say that there's something wrong with us having a farm, or something wrong with us getting a bailout? And well, righteous people and others are saying, yeah, no, we're not necessarily wishing harm on you, but we are hoping that you get to experience the reality of the consequences of your actions. And so they are saying things like this. I'm gonna play this clip for you, and you're gonna see, those of you on YouTube will be able to see it. And it is a clip where you're gonna hear a farmer who's basically saying, so that's what you want? You want us to not have any help? You want to wish harm on American farmers? It's not patriotic. And then we're gonna see a black man respond, a black man who's got some things to say, who hopefully we can get on this show at some point. Take a listen to this second clip, and then we'll unpack on the other side. Let's hear it.
So that's what we got for American farmers, is zero empathy. We want them to fail. That's what you're saying out there. That's what Americans are saying right now is
Oh, Bob.
well, next time you'll vote the right way, or that's what you get for who you voted for. That, to me, I want to say it doesn't sound very American of people, but
Bob.
here lately, that's all we're doing is complaining.
No disrespect, sir, but you are sadly mistaken.
Come on,
The
brother.
American people had empathy.
Show did.
That's why we voted the way we did.
Speak on it.
We knew what would happen to the farmers. They told us what would happen to the farmers. We had a previous presidency that showed us what would happen to the farmers. And some of us, not enough of us, voted with empathy because we didn't want to see the farmers lose their farms. We didn't want people to go bankrupt and go out of business. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough of us with empathy to vote in that direction.
Show would.
There were too many of us that voted for other people to suffer
Show did.
and other people to face cruelties. And now you got to suffer the consequences. We can't feed everybody. That's socialism.
That's
We
socialism.
can't give health care to everybody. That's socialism.
That's socialism.
We can't provide student loan relief. That's socialism.
Yeah, can't do that.
But now if the farmers want a bailout, I got news for you. That's socialism.
Ooh,
Y'all don't
can't
like
do that.
socialism.
No, y'all said
So
y'all don't
again,
like it.
My mom said sometimes you gotta let people touch the stove
So
and
it's
suffer the
hot.
consequences. Meet your consequences.
Yeah, the consequences are called no bailout for you, Bob. No bailouts, because you should have talked to the Republicans who don't like you. Republicans don't like farmers. They don't like the poor ones anyway. They only like the major agricultural farms. And basically, we're in a situation where you got people who think that they're going to, as representatives, talk with just a handful of folks in the community. And hundreds of farmers are showing up talking about we need help. No, you can't have any. You know what I don't see, actually, though, Farmer Bobs? Here's the reason why you don't get to get any help, because for all the videos that I have seen, and maybe you out in Urban View, maybe you in the YouTube audience, maybe you have seen some of these videos because I haven't seen them. You know what I haven't seen? I have not seen videos of black women talking about the fact that they were railroaded and pushed out of positions for which they were overly qualified, and as a result they need a bailout. I haven't seen that because you know why? Because black people are just going to figure out how to move forward without getting a bailout, because we know how to do that because we don't get bailouts. You know what I haven't seen? Black men talking about the fact that they were forced out of positions that they were overly qualified for, and that they're now unemployed, and that they're going to need a bailout. I'm not seeing videos of people who know that the end of diversity, equity, and inclusion is unconstitutional, unjust, and pro-slavery. I'm not seeing videos of that saying that we need a bailout. But you know what we do see a lot? We see a lot of welfare queen farmers, a lot of failed farmers who obviously didn't have what it takes to compete out on the open market. You couldn't hack it. You couldn't do the work. And we know you couldn't do the work because we got black farmers who never got those bailouts who are doing the work. Black farmers who, yeah, they struggling because they always struggling because you as white farmers have been able to benefit from a system that had caused them to struggle so that you could benefit. You can't have no more bailouts. And now you got righteous people fighting against your effort to have a bailout. And we're in a situation right now where don't nobody give a damn. Nobody cares. Get in line. Farmers, suck it up, buttercups. Pull yourself up by your farmer boots and you should be okay. And in addition to the fact that Republicans don't like farms or farmers or poor white people, they also apparently don't like candy. I don't know if you've noticed this right as we are leaning into Halloween season coming up, because apparently we some of y'all have stores where you already got your Christmas decorations up. Don't fall for it. That's basically them trying to get you to buy everything you need right now because they know them tariffs finna go up. Just see what it is. Go do your holiday shopping, whatever it is you got to do. Just know them prices is going up, and that's why they got them things on sale right now, because they're trying to get as much as your dollars as they can. But candy prices, for those of you who do Halloween or Hallelujah night, for those of you who are raised in a Christian tradition where you let your kids dress up as Bible characters because you can't really tell them no, they can't do Halloween, but and you kind of want to do Halloween light, but your church say you can't do it. Ask me how I know these things exist. But basically, get your candy now, because candy prices are going to be increasing exponentially according to Sheetz. You guys may know Sheetz. It's a major gas station chain that populates a lot of our states. Basically, Sheetz has posters up now talking about the fact that their candies are going to experience a 26% increase. Why 26% increase? Well, because we don't grow cocoa in this country. And the places where they do grow cocoa, they're dealing with some environmental challenges. So it's making the price of cocoa go up. And also the tariffs. So because environmental concerns are sort of baked into, we understand that that's going to have an increase or may increase prices or decrease depending on what's happening. Basically, we are in a situation now where even Hershey's candy is like, yeah, son, these tariffs and this situation, what we gonna have to do, we're not gonna eat these tariffs. We're not gonna eat these costs. We're not gonna eat, even though we're gonna eat our candy, and we hope you eat our candy, we're not gonna eat these costs. Hershey's chocolate basically announced in July that because of these rising cocoa prices and these tariffs, they are going to have to raise their prices by double digits. Now, again, they're dealing with some environmental concerns in terms of where cocoa is grown, but because cocoa ain't grown here, even if it weren't for the environmental concerns, the prices of the tariffs on the chocolates is going to increase. And so basically Sheetz and other gas stations are now posting up images that say the prices of Hershey products in their stores are going to be adjusted. And the notices say this: effective September 17th, 2025, Sheetz will increase pricing on select Hershey products. This change is in response to a 26% cost increase implemented by Hershey on king size and regular size candy bars, including Hershey's, Kit Kat, and damn it, Payday candy bars and Reese's peanut butter cups. Those are my two favorite candies. Reese's peanut butter cups really are unmatched. And Payday candy bars, are you serious? Once you eat all the peanuts on the outside and you get that nuggety goodness on the inside, God damn it. It happens to all of us. These price increases are going to be hitting everybody. And again, we talk much more about a lot of these topics later on in the show, in the podcast episode. I want to leave you with one piece of good news, however, after all of this hellishness and examples as to how the Republicans really do hate poor white people. And by extension, that means they hate all the rest of us because we are, in their estimation, less than poor white people. Here's a bit of contrast for you. And I think it's important that we have contrast, because sometimes you can walk away from these conversations feeling like, oh, what are the politicians doing? The politicians ain't doing nothing. Well, the Democrats are actually doing a lot, particularly at the state level. Here's a bit of contrast for your edification, poor white, so that you can get a sense as to what it would be like to live in a state where you actually are getting your needs met, in the state of New Mexico. And we've talked about New Mexico a lot. And again, I discussed this much more extensively in the podcast episode coming out later today. But New Mexico is going to be the first state in these United States that is going to make childcare absolutely free Free at last, free at last. You can go to work and not have to pay your last to have somebody take care of your children. Now, New Mexico has been working on this for a really long time, and the Democrats in that state have been very intentional about using their resources, taxing the wealthy corporations in their state, and using that information to basically allow them to be able to provide this service for the community. Now, the thing about this is that I love about it is, again, this has been something long in the making, and the Latina community in New Mexico has been playing a real strong role in this effort. So this program, starting in November of this year, it is going to save families up to $12,000 per child per year. Now, I'm gonna just tell you right now, in New York City, the amount of money that we spent on childcare was its own form of birth control, because me and my husband was looking at each other like, wait a minute, these bills is expensive. That might explain why there is a significant gap between the ages of my children right now, because having children is its own form of birth control when you think about the economy of having children. But you spend a lot of money making sure that somebody is qualified to take care of your child. Now, if you're sending them down to grandma's house down the street, that's a little different. Grandma ain't gonna charge you that much. But if you want them to have like an educated experience in terms of preschool and childcare, one that, you know what, that I said that incorrectly, because it's a lot of older people who are watching kids who are turning off that TV or making sure that them kids know how to read their ABCs and count their numbers. So let me reframe this. Shout out to all the home-based child care centers in the community. What I was really speaking to, and this is why we got to be careful with our words, what I was really speaking to was there are some places that you can send your child. It's just going to be basic care. They're just going to make sure your kids ain't going to poke out their eyes or somebody else's eyes or set the community on fire. That is not what I'm talking about, because those tend to be way more affordable, even if they are a strain for people for whom that is the only option. But if you want your child to have a space where there are metrics and standards and regulations and sort of that sort of thing and a curriculum, you might have to pay a lot more. At least you were going to if you were living in New York City when my kids were in childcare. But starting in November, New Mexico is going to be the first state in the nation, led by the Democrats, to provide free childcare to all residents regardless of income. And as I talk about in the podcast, I know some people take issue with this idea that everybody is allowed to use childcare for free regardless of income, because you think the wealthy people are going to, freeload off of this. And that might happen. I'm not going to suggest that it's not going to happen. But when you implement means testing, right? And by means testing, I mean when you say only people who make this certain income or below can participate, or only people who meet these metrics can participate, it's a lot more difficult for people who would qualify for the program to actually participate in the program. And I talk about some of the reasons why in the podcast episode. So I really love that they are making this a universal program. And honey, just trust me, the wealthy are not trying to bum rush into your hood-based daycare center. They still gonna have their kids in the upper crusty hoity-toity healthcare or child care institutions, because they're upper crusty and hoity-toity, and that's what they want. No shade, it's just what it is. The state began working on this project years ago, before the pandemic, and they had started this organization called the Early Childhood Education and Care Department, and they made that a part of their state's constitution through the work of people on the ground. Yesterday on our show, we had Chris Melody Fields Figueroa on. She was talking about ballot initiatives and how ballot initiatives are tools that you can use at the state level to completely fundamentally change laws in your state. And that's kind of what was happening in New Mexico. This initiative, again, going to save tens of thousands of dollars for families, and they say, according to the governor, LaJean Grisham, and I think I'm pronouncing her name incorrectly, but she says, Governor Grisham says childcare is essential to family stability, workforce participation, and New Mexico's future prosperity. By investing in universal childcare, we are giving families financial relief, supporting our economy, and ensuring that every child has the opportunity to grow and thrive. Now, we know the feds, whoa, my power just went weird. That's weird. We know the feds are basically, I'm at the home studio today, so I was like, what's happening? We know the feds are not going to continue providing services or funds because of that big bitch ass bill that they just passed. And my fear has been that at the state level, governors are going to have to make decisions about how to, with a much smaller amount of money, still meet the needs in their community. Democrats are leading the way and showing how that can be done effectively while making sure that people get their needs met. What happened in New Mexico is instructive, because when they got their COVID relief money back in 2020, they began earmarking money then for early childhood education. They also then began a taxing policy that basically took additional tax collections from the oil and gas industries, i.e. tax the fucking rich. Hello, they can afford it. A 200,000. They were talking about taxing the rich in New York City, and Zohran Mamdani was like, if you're a millionaire and we're talking a 2% tax, that's $20,000. That's chump change. You can spend that on shoes and private flights between here and wherever it is that you go fly privately. We're not talking about significant amounts of money. The wealthy can afford it, and frankly, it is a better society, wealthy people, when we're all paying our fair share. It's one of the reasons why I don't understand why people keep talking about Social Security is at risk. Social Security is never at risk if you would tax the wealthy on Social Security the way you tax all of us. They stop paying into Social Security by the time they hit what, 180 some $1,000, something like that, which they can hit in the first day of the new year. We are paying into Social Security until we hit 180 or whatever $1,000 the cap is. Cut the cap. Make the wealthy pay the full on everything the same way you make us pay on everything. Social Security would be fine. Anyway, back in 2020, New Mexico started engaging in this effort. They took their fund, which included additional tax dollars from the oil and gas industries which they have in their state. They taxed the rich. That fund went from $320 million to $10 billion with a B dollars that they now have dedicated to early childhood education. Again, the Latinos in New Mexico were really leading this charge. And in 2022, they used their ballot initiative type procedures to basically pass a constitutional amendment. And now universal childcare is a part of their state's constitution. So here we have some real examples as to the many ways that Republicans in power demonstrate their hatred for poor white people and everybody else with every single policy decision. And we can contrast that with what the Democrats are doing by reallocating money and reinvesting in the communities that absolutely need it in ways that are going to benefit the entire state. White people, you get an opportunity to figure out what kind of leadership you actually want. The rest of us are pretty clear. we are pretty clear. And even the people who we weren't able to hold into our coalition, ain't nobody want them anyway. I'm kidding. That wasn't nice. I apologize. That was rude. I should not have said that. My point is this: is way more of us on the right side of justice than y'all. Y'all got to figure it out. Aren't you tired of getting played, poor white people? Aren't you tired of century after century of not having your needs met just so you can claim that you're white? You ain't even got teeth in your mouth. You ain't got mental health care. You can barely see because you ain't got no glasses. You can't barely go to a doctor. Now you can't even get to a hospital. They don't like you. You can't farm. They're not going to purchase your products. They're cutting off your ability to sell internationally. They don't like you. And the sooner you realize it and stop believing that being white is enough, the sooner the rest of us can get to work building what absolutely could be a multiracial democracy in this space and allow for the rest of us to have some sort of freedom, some semblance of something that ain't oppression like this. All right, we're going to leave it there for now. 866-801-8255, 866-801-TALK is the number. Are you seeing policy differences already make their way into your community? What are you seeing? Are you already hearing about cuts that your state is going to have to consider as a result of this big bitch ass bill? Are you already getting word as to how we're going to see some things shifting in your lived experience as a result of these increased prices we're experiencing? Give us a call, 866-801-8255, 866-801-TALK.